That introduction sometimes. Hey, good afternoon to everyone. I got to tell you, it is so great to be here with people who love big ideas, ideas that matter and ideas that are going to make a difference. You know, in many ways, I think that we are all fellow travelers. We're journeyers on the path to building a better world. But in my experience, it really is important, particularly if you want to be a change maker, that you travel lightly, softly, with a light footprint. Now, in the Mercy Corps world, there are some funny stories, maybe even some legends about my packing habits. I travel lightly. But I say, hey, if you're going off to Afghanistan, Somalia, Sudan, many of the hot spots of the world, it's a lot better to leave the extras behind because you never know when you're going to have to move from one place to another because of security or otherwise, quickly and very nimbly. In fact, I've carried that principle over to my children. My wife and I, Alyssa, in fact, in this town, I think I'm better off known as the husband of Alyssa, we took our kids on a trip to Guatemala, 3 months. We said, listen, kids, you can bring anything you want as long as you can pack it in one carry-on. And we did go off. And so for all you parents out there, prospective parents, let me tell you, that's a much better way to travel. Only what you can carry on. Because I think change makers too often, we've seen it, they bring too much baggage. They bring the baggage of bureaucracy. They bring the weights of too many mandates, complicated solutions, when in fact, as change makers, most of what we need can fit right into our backpacks, our messenger bags. Almost everything we need. So if you'll just bear with me a little bit, I'd love to share with you kind of what I think is important for change makers to travel with. These are the things that I never leave home without. So the first thing that I always travel with, is a compass. Now, the reason for this is because change makers always need to know where true north is. True north, it's our values, it's our principles, it's our mission, it's our theory of change. It's the things that keep us focused on real change that makes a difference for the people that we care about. True north. If you lose sight of true north, your vision can become very blurry. Now, the other reason I carry a compass is because, it's kind of important to know where we're starting, a little bit where we're going, but I don't carry a map. I don't believe in maps because maps are prescriptive. And the best journeys, the most effective journeys of every social change involve going through uncharted territory. Uncharted territory, and a compass helps. Now, the second thing that I always travel with, you guys will appreciate this, is a flashlight. And that's not just to be able to find my way in the dark. It's not only to be able to bring darkness where there's light, although in a world that has so much violence, so much hatred, so much discrimination, the metaphor of bringing light to darkness is a good one. But for me, I carry the flashlight because it reminds us as change makers that we need to find and nurture the bright lights in every community. They're the change agents. They're often known as social entrepreneurs. They're often ordinary people, a school teacher, a small business person, a community worker, who do extraordinary things in times of challenge or crisis, who help us all see a problem in a different way, who inspire us to be our best. They're the bright lights. And I want to tell you a quick story of one of the bright lights that has inspired me in the last several years. Her name is Reem. She's a young Palestinian woman who lived in the Gaza Strip. Today she's 21. When I met her, she was 18. And we all know the Gaza Strip, one of the bleakest places on our planet. Poverty rate of 80%. It's been described as the largest prison in the world. Unemployment of 45%, higher than that for young people. But Reem said, those conditions aren't going to define my life. I'm going to change that. And what she did was organize, with a little help from a small organization from Portland, to form youth groups. And then these youth groups grew in Gaza, and suddenly 1,000 young people between the ages of 16 and 21 were doing community service, teaching kindergartens, helping people with disabilities, blogging with other young people around the world to make a difference. But the most poignant part of the Reem story for me was after the Hamas-Israeli war. I was one of the first people to go into Gaza after that war. And I went to see Reem and her friends. I was worried. And when I was there, there was a camera crew and a journalist, a reporter. And as we know, reporters are looking for that controversial angle, right? So the reporter said to Reem and her friends, he said, after all this violence, after this hatred, after what you've suffered, doesn't this want to make you pick up the gun? I'll just hold this. The gun. Reem looked up, looked over at her friends. They talked a bit. They leaned back. Of course, the camera zeroed in. The reporter looked down. And she said, yes, the gun of knowledge. The gun of knowledge. So the bright lights, they're the change makers and they're the peacemakers on our planet. And as change makers, we have to always find and nurture the bright lights. Okay, what else do we need to carry? Cookie cutter. No change maker worth his or her weight in salt would ever carry a cookie cutter. Because as we all know, cookie cutter solutions don't work. They're the ones that are hatched by experts somewhere, draw up these complicated plans and plop them down. Got to have local voices. Let's get rid of the cookie cutter. Do you mind? Is that all right? Let's just get rid of that. All right, what else do we have? What else do we change makers need? A megaphone? How in the hell did this get in my bag? I'd never travel with a megaphone. Change makers don't talk to people at people, right? That's not how change happens. There is no sustainable change that happens by talking to people. Adam, we got to get rid of this megaphone, don't we? And see, we got to be more ingenious about what we're doing. Try ingenuity. Wait a minute. If we think of a little bit of ingenuity, what if, rather than a megaphone, this is a listening device? Do you think that would be better? Because all change starts with listening to local people and then adapting, tailoring solutions to the local context. That's what it's about. And as an organization that has tried to be relevant around the Arab Spring, the most important thing that we as Mercy Corps or any organization can do is to stand with the people in Tahrir Square. Stand with the organizations that are on the front of change. I love the concept, no matter what anyone says, leading from behind, because that's what change makers need to do. And you won't bring about the right kind of change if you're not listening in the square where it's happening. If you think you have a solution or wisdom that's greater than the people you're trying to help, no change will happen. Reminds me of a story of working in Africa. Mercy Corps, we work in Somalia, one of the toughest places in the world. 1 in 5 children will die before they reach the age of 5. There's been, of course, violence, but also massive famine and drought in Somalia. There was a large aid agency whose name will go unmentioned that thought they had the right solution. Let's build 2 mega reservoirs, complicated irrigation systems, and create some water authority that will manage it. Well, we were talking to the farmers, and they sort of said, you know, we don't think that's going to work. What if we just do smaller ponds on our own lands with simple handheld watering systems? And you know, for a lot less money and tons more impact, that was the solution that went forward. So we have to get rid of the cookie cutters and certainly the megaphones and listen to people. There's kind of a new movement going around now that I think captures it, and I would encourage all of us to read about it, called design thinking. What else do I travel with? I always want to try to find something that reminds me of innovation, that is really important. And oh, sorry, I know that violates the rules. Let me turn it off. Bet you thought that was staged. The cell phone. Now, it's not just a communication device. What the cell phone should remind every change maker is the importance, particularly with the challenges we face today, of bringing social innovation and disruptive technology to the challenges. We have to think differently. We have to push for new solutions, to be creative. That is so required today. And technology and social innovation are bringing a wave of new energy, of new creativity to the social change movement. It started about 10 years ago. We used to think of it as social entrepreneurs and then social innovation and social enterprise or creative capitalism, whatever we call it. It's all about bringing new thinking, pushing our limits, new kinds of partnerships to make a difference. So let's always remember the power of social innovation. I think of Haiti, where my own organization had the opportunity to introduce mobile money payments in a place like Haiti. Haiti's interesting, isn't it? 80% of the people have access to a cell phone. Now think about that. For the first time, families who've lived this history of aid are suddenly, with a voucher on their phone, able to go to a local vendor and buy what they think is important, not what some aid agency brings them in material good, not the food that the World Food Program thinks is important, but what they think is important. It's empowering. It brings dignity. It's a new way of doing things. So innovation is so important to our challenges. All right, what else do we have here? A coffee pot. Now, this isn't only because I'm from Portland and I love good coffee, but I do. And we know this is the coffee capital, right? But it reminds me of the importance of sitting down with people and forming partnerships. A coffee pot is all about partnerships. And let me tell you this, no single organization, no single change maker is so wise, so smart, so capable that we can ever bring about powerful change all by ourselves. It really is about partnerships. And the partnerships that matter most are the ones that connect community, civil society, with business and private sector, and with government. Whether we're trying to tackle child malnutrition in the Jakarta slums with food carts, or whether or not we're trying to bring down the high school dropout rate in our own communities, or whether we're trying to create more diversity in our neighborhoods through better housing opportunities, whatever that is, we will never, never achieve the kind of change that we want to achieve without partnerships. And the most powerful ones connect the three stools of change: government, with business, with civil society, and community. That is so important. The final thing, see, it's not that complicated of what we carry. Final thing that I always bring with me is a book. Now, some of you may be going, yeah, that's because you spend a lot of time stuck in airports while some monsoon goes over. And that's true. But that's not why. This is a book of wisdom. And the reason is because how many of us see change makers when they have all this commitment and passion and effort, but they forget about nurturing their own soul, their own spirit. And what happens then? We know what happens then. People get burned out. The joy goes away. The passion subsides. And if we can't align our heads, our hearts, and our spirits, none of us can be the kind of change makers, to be, as Gandhi said, the change that we want to see in this world. So bring a book. You know, I'm sure like many of you, people come up to me all the time and they say, I want to be a change maker. I want to wake up every morning and feel inspired. I want my life to have meaning. And I think, as we all know, there doesn't have to be a complicated answer, right? Not at all. All we need to do is pack lightly, walk humbly, leave a soft footprint, and never forget our true north. Never forget that we need to find and nurture the bright lights. Never forget that we need to listen to local voices and translate every solution into a local context. Never forget the power of social innovation and disruptive technology. Partnerships. We can't do it alone. And finally, the book of wisdom. We have to nurture our own souls and hearts to be the change that we want to see in the world. You know, Albert Schweitzer said, he's a pretty smart guy, I think. Albert Schweitzer said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but I do know this, that the only ones among you who will find true happiness are those who have sought and found how to serve. So I say, let's pack our bags and let's get on the journey of building a better world together. Thank you very much.